to see you back. Denise, Findlay, and Tereasa Golka from Chameleon Strategies have uncovered the keys that make love work. Success isn't going to be a secret any longer. Welcome, ladies.
Thank you.
So you have a number of strategies that make relationships work. So maybe we can, I guess, sort of start right off the top. How come some relationships just don't work?
Well, in the work that we do, we sort of look for four main things, and we refer to them as relationship toxins. And this comes from the work of John Gottman. He's a world-renowned relationship expert, written books, and he's sort of narrowed it down to these four things. And a relationship, the health of a relationship, depends predominantly on the degree of blame, defensiveness, stonewalling, and contempt that exists in the relationship.
So blame, stonewalling, which is number one. So if somebody's in a relationship and they're constantly blaming their partner, that's really toxic.
Yeah, and we sort of try to look at it like, when we're working with couples, that blame exists in the relationship, and that it's not necessary. It could look like one partner is doing all the blaming, and that blame is tolerated in that particular relationship, and both people need to actually work on the reduction of it.
The reduction of blame.
Yeah, or the management of it.
The management of it.
Of blame and criticism. The two go hand in hand. What we find is that, according to Gottman's work, and it makes perfect sense, the blame leads to defensiveness, which leads to stonewalling, which over time leads to contempt. So he calls them the four horsemen, because it's like when one comes in, the other the other three come galloping in behind. So you can see how in a conflict in a relationship, it begins to escalate. It goes from a small criticism, you didn't get the dishes done, to defensiveness, well, why is it always my job to do that? To back and forth, and then it just begins to escalate, and you have a pattern.
Okay, so how do people get rid of that in a relationship? You know, because we all know people who do a lot of blaming, and they're engaged in that. How does somebody say, I'm not going to blame my partner anymore?
Well, first of all, both people in the relationship need to be willing to work on it. And the key piece is the blame. So if they can be willing to resolve any conflicts they have without the blame, which requires them to both acknowledge that they are doing it. So acknowledgement of these four things, and actually just knowing and keeping an eye out for these four things, is the biggest piece.
Okay, we've all heard this before. It's my way or the highway.
Yeah.
So what happens in that situation? You know, guy, like, you know how sometimes people, oh, you're always trying to change me. You know, like,
well, yeah, that's a great question, because 69% of relationship issues, conflicts that you have in a relationship, whatever it is that you're fighting about the first day you start hanging out, will be what you're still having issues with 25 years down the road. Most likely,
69%. So basically, that argument will continue through your entire relationship.
Absolutely.
So in a sense, that's good news, because what we can do now is stop trying to change each other and actually look at how can we successfully navigate the differences that we have. And the other thing that Gottman talks about in his work is relationships that have a high degree of positivity. It's not about not having any conflict. It's about a relationship, a ratio of positivity versus
What is that ratio?
Needs to be 5 to 1 minimum.
5 to 1.
At
So
the least.
you're saying 5 positive comments for every 1 negative comment?
Absolutely.
Yes.
Wow. Yeah. So, I mean, to put that into somebody's brain, if you're with somebody, you have to constantly going, oh, I really like your shoes, I really like, and then building that up.
Really focusing on what you love about that person, the positive aspects.
And it doesn't necessarily have to be verbal. It can be like a touch, or a kind act, or eye contact. It can be any of those little things. Anything that creates positive connection between the two people will build the positivity. So it actually isn't that hard to do. It just takes, like I said in the beginning, a willingness to commit to doing it.
So what Denise is talking about is like our understanding and our awareness increases, and with that we make different choices, and we start to see the results of that, and so it inspires us to continue to do more of it. So in a sense, what we focus on expands and expands and expands in the relationship.
Okay, what about this? I've heard this before. People say, like, I tend to compliment people a lot because that's my nature, and sometimes I've even been said this to this before, that, oh, that's really phony. You know, you're like, what about, like you're trying to build up these positive things, and you're trying to find positive things about your partner and other people. I mean, what about...
I think that what happens is sometimes when people start working, say, with a relationship coach, and they're starting to work on building the positivity, it can feel a little awkward or contrived in the beginning. And it doesn't matter. it
Well,
really
you have to
doesn't
search
matter
and you're
because
like, what's good today? I really like the way you're chewing.
yeah. And for some
Yeah.
people it is.
And it may look like that in the beginning.
Yeah.
Actually, you know, I've done work with couples where they really don't remember what they like about each other. And
Really?
and so it is time to really focus on, and we can go back in time and look at the old myth, how you came together, what you loved about each other in the beginning, what your sense of purpose was in the beginning. And you can actually start to sort of mine from that to bring it forward and start remembering what you love about each other.
That'll reconnect couples.
What's another toxic thing that people can change?
When we
Let's talk about stonewalling, because that's a great one.
What's stonewalling?
Well, stonewalling is sort of, you know, how we can cut people off. We just sort of say, well, we're not going to deal with you. And there's a number of ways that we can do that.
That's really horrible, though. I think that's mean. I think that's bad. I don't think anybody should do that.
I actually am I'm a stonewaller. So
Yes.
I'm a
You're
good,
a stonewaller?
I'm in my own relationship with my husband. That's sort of, you know, where I go when I'm flooded or triggered.
What do you mean flooded?
So when a conflict happens and I have a physiological, so I get triggered and then my body, I have a physiological response and I flood emotionally and I feel like I can't deal with it and I'm going to get angry. I will just turn away from him and I will refuse to engage with him.
Oh.
Now, typically,
Yes.
and I'm going to let Tereasa
Love
speak to
that.
this, is that men physiologically flood quicker than women.
Really?
Yes.
They have.
So we
it's-
can't inundate them.
It's all about the
Exactly.
fight or flight.
Okay, so we've got
you know,
about-
sort of going back to our, you know, our evolution as a species, and that men will flood more quickly and they will stay flooded for a longer period of time. So, in fact, when that occurs, it's really important to take a break. It really is important to create
Just
space
let them go
and
away.
let them
Yes.
have the time.
Don't try to
to
invade the
calm
cave
down.
and keep coming
Yes.
back. Don't
Because
forget
the
this.
blood pressure's up, everything is happening, and it's like they cannot see you. It's like Elvis has left the building.
Yes.
You know, it's not. It's
Wow.
they're really not capable of it. And as Denise says, she has that experience herself, so she can relate to it. A lot of our work is about normalizing this type of thing and letting people know that these are the
okay.
things that happen in relationships.
And it's perfectly normal to feel
Yeah.
all
Yeah.
of those things, and it's a part of it. So thank you very much, ladies. We really appreciate you being here and helping us through all these problems. Coming up next, we're clearing up all of that complicated information about omega-3.